Georgia is one of only 4 states that does not have a Consumer Utility Counsel. The Consumer Utility Counsel is an independently funded state department or agency comprised of utility financing and regulatory experts. The reason there is a separate agency is because it's widely understood that during rate proceedings at the Public Service Commission or Public Utility Commission, that there is no one there representing consumer interests. The utility has lobbyists there, and they have high-paid lawyers. Business interests, industrial interests have lawyers and high-paid lobbyists there, but nobody is there representing the consumer. In Georgia, we defunded our Consumer Utility Counsel. We had such an office too for decades representing consumers at rate hearings, but we defunded ours in 2008 during the Great Recession under the guise of saving state money on the budget. Now, however, a bill has been introduced in the Georgia Senate to reinstate that office because Georgia Power has behaved like a kid in a candy store without parents since that agency was defunded. And what I want you to hear today is the ridiculous reasons that PSC Executive Director Reece McAllister gives to the committee hearing on this bill about why that Georgia does not need a Consumer Utility Counsel. So first I'm going to let you hear from him for about 30 seconds.
The books in 2015. And the Public Service Commission, we have a staff that serves this purpose. It's called our Public Interest Advocacy Staff.
Okay, so let's see what exactly he's talking about with the Public Interest Advocacy Staff. Let's watch just how good a job they're doing representing the public interest. Example number 1. On December 5th, 2023, you can see I am in the witness box. I'm an expert witness for the Vogel prudency hearings. And what I want you to see is Public Interest Advocacy Staff Preston Thomas, the man on the far left that's barely in the window, is going to oppose a document that I submitted 1 day late. Now keep in mind that Plant Vogel is 7 years late, and Mr. Thomas has never had anything to say bad about that. But when I want to submit a document 1 day late, 4 days before the hearing instead of the required 5, he stands up right away to oppose that. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to object to the exhibit being entered into the record. The PSO paragraph C requires any demonstrative handouts that can be used during summations to be pre-filed at least 5 days in advance of the hearing, and the demonstrative exhibit she intends to use during her testimony today is not on the filing log, and I've confirmed with the executive.
So, yeah, there we go. That is the Public Interest Advocacy Staff that Mr. Reece McAllister thinks is representing the public interest, disputing my submitting a chart a day late when I'm trying to testify on behalf of the public interest. Okay, let's see what else. Example number 2 occurred in May of 2023 during a fuel cost recovery docket where Georgia Power was asking for a stunning $2.5 billion be added to our electric bills to pay for natural gas fuel cost overruns. This woman at the podium is a staff attorney for the Sierra Club, and listen to the question that she asks Public Interest Advocacy Staff Tom Newsom, and listen to his answer.
Wouldn't you agree that it's in the best interest of ratepayers to try and mitigate the risk of rate increases that depend on the fuel costs?
Yes, but you've got to strike a balance between the company and the ratepayers.
Now, that answer, you have to strike a balance, is not representing the public interest. Georgia Power is able to take care of their own interests in terms of funding and financing that Mr. Newsom is clearly very worried about. There is no way anybody can credibly claim that answer was representative of the public interest. It is a ridiculous non-answer and is frankly shameful. So let's wrap up by hearing the final word from Mr. McAllister as he makes his case why there shouldn't be a Consumer Utility Counsel.
It's called our Public Interest Advocacy Staff. When a case is assigned, a contested case is assigned to the commission, 2 staffs are formed. There's a Public Interest Advocacy Staff that represents residential customers, represents small commercial and industrial customers, a combined group. And then we have an advisory team that advises the commissioners. So the Public Interest Advocacy Staff advocates on behalf of residential consumers.
So I think we can see just how good a job the public interest advocacy staff does, and why we actually need a Consumer Utility Counsel, despite what Mr. McAllister said.